Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet one of the most successful immigration attorneys in the great state of Texas. His incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
It seems like every single day there's another storyline when it comes to immigration. And so when I have a topic that is this hot, I bring in the best expert in the state. And that describes my next guest. Susham M is in the studio. He's the founder of the Modi Law Firm. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Appreciate you.
So your friends just call you Modi, and I will as well. So tell me about immigration law. When did you first become attracted to it?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I mean, I want to say it was approximately 20 years ago. And, I got into it because I really wanted to help people. By the time I get old and I look back in my life, I want to say I made a real difference in people's lives. And fortunately, I did. I have an amazing team. But it was when I was visiting India the last time. And India is beautiful. There's a lot of diversity, a lot of beautiful fabrics and culture and food. But there was a lot of extreme poverty, too. And I wanted to help people to have an opportunity to make it for themselves. And so that's why I really love what I did. And I started with all human rights law when I first got into immigration law.
Outstanding. And you have quite a resume. You spent some time in the Ivy Leagues. You taught in Houston. Tell us a little bit more about your resume.
Yeah, no, I'm really fortunate. I had some of the best mentors in the world. I worked with Chris Nugent in a big law firm in their pro bono department in D.C., and he referred me to Harvard Law School. I got to be an attorney advocate, the first year out of law school there. And they recommended me to be a law professor. So I was a law professor at an early age at the University of Houston Law Center, where I worked on human rights cases like asylum refugee cases.
Incredible. We're going to pull up your website. And as we scroll down the website, let's talk about some of the most common cases that you see.
We actually work on a huge diversity of cases. So we've done, the gamut, everything between investor visas, a lot of investor visas where somebody's trying to start a business and invest a large amount of money and have an ability to stay here, to the other end of the spectrum, which is what I taught, asylum refugee cases, like human rights cases, where they're afraid to go back, or otherwise they could be persecuted or tortured. And in between, so family-based petitions, work visas, really complicated appeals and extraordinary ability petitions.
Sure. And I think the media paints immigration with a very broad brush. And so when many people think of immigration, they immediately think of the southern border. But you practice law all over the place and are helping people who are trying to legally immigrate to this country. Talk about your passion for making sure people do it right.
Exactly right, Jeff. So we handle cases from all over the world. And even immigration law itself is federal law. So we can take cases from anywhere in the U.S. We've traveled to other states even for interviews and court cases. But yeah, immigration is really broad. And we help people stay legally or even come in from outside the United States legally into the United States. So it's a great honor to do this type of work.
Tell me one of your favorite success stories.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I really have a phenomenal team. They deserve a lot of credit. We work on a lot of complicated cases. One, that just comes to mind off the top of my head that was complicated and we really made a difference is an individual who was a grandfather. And his kids were U.S. citizens. His grandchildren were U.S. citizens. And this was many years ago. I want to say maybe 7, 8 years ago. And the individual got removed from the United States as a green card holder, as a permanent resident. So, we even see this now, a lot of people applying for naturalization because green card holders really don't have the same protection as U.S. citizens. But he was removed for a really minor possession of marijuana, like less than, 10 gram, like very minor possession of marijuana. And there was a law, there was a Supreme Court case actually one of my colleagues worked on called Crilley. And what they did is they tried to use those minor possession of marijuana convictions and convict him as a felon for immigration purposes, not even criminal purposes, for immigration purposes. So he got easy probation for criminal matters because it was a minor possession of marijuana. But then all of a sudden he was put in deportation and deported. This is many years ago before he even hired us. And he went to 3 other immigration attorneys. They all missed the issue, the Supreme Court case, that it shouldn't have been, that aggravated. I knew the case, and we do a lot of research, but one of my colleagues actually at UH Law Center, excellent attorney, now a judge, but he worked on that Supreme Court case, Crilley. And so I had told his kids, who are really successful kids, great kids. When I say kid, I mean, I'm talking Jeff. He was like older than me. He's my age, but this is a grandfather. So he ended up hiring us to manage the expectations. Look, you already went to 3 other lawyers. It's really hard to file what's called a motion to reopen the case because you usually only get 1 chance. So we made these old common law principle arguments that he had ineffective assistance of counsel and equitable tolling under old common law principles. And the coolest part of this story is we got it reopened. We got him back in the U.S. in a full trial in the U.S. So he was able to come back in on parole, and we ended up winning the trial. And the greatest part of this memory is this is the grandfather. This is like the patriarch of the family. He's the glue that holds all the family together. He's got grandkids that are U.S. citizens, and they've been apart for over a decade before they, contacted us. And so when we won the case, he had no emotion. The grandfather had no emotion. And we saw him go, because you have to be processed out, so he had to go back to detention to get processed out to be released. And there was a double glass window there. And he didn't think anybody was looking at him. And we saw him tear up in like tears of joy. That was one of the coolest stories because we made a difference. A lot of immigration attorneys won, and he was such a great guy. And they've been apart for so long, and those joyful tears.
Wow, I can only imagine. You just gave me goosebumps. Let's talk about the last few months under Trump. I know there's a lot of fear and misinformation. I bet your phones are going crazy.
We are very busy. There's a lot of fear, and it's understandable fear. But that's why it's good to have a really good immigration attorney these days. We see a lot of cases in terms of types of cases, like there's student status revocations that are happening. They don't even get any notice, just quickly being terminated. I spoke about that recently on the radio. There's that whole issue of the Alien Enemies Act, where individuals were deported without even seeing a judge to El Salvador, or Salvadorian prisons that are brutal. And so we're seeing trends of that, but we're also seeing trends on the other side. People that are here, they may have been a green card holder forever, but they're like, hey, I need to apply for citizenship. I have a lot more protection as a U.S. citizen. And so we see a lot of naturalization applications, a lot of people who are married to a U.S. citizen for years, maybe a decade, but then they're like, they never filed because they had some other status. And they're like, okay, let me file for that green card now with what's happening,
And some of these are just almost honest mistakes. I mean, no family member never thought it would lead to deportation, but now suddenly they found themselves in a bad situation. So when somebody engages you for the first time, is it an exploratory phone call first before you sit down, or what does it look like?
Yeah, for all of our cases, we have an excellent team. They take intake notes and then they schedule a legal consultation. And we really don't, we're also different than a lot of immigration attorneys. We don't really put a time limit on it. I really want people to have the right advice. Even if they don't hire us, I want them to be on the right path. There's so much at stake in immigration. But we do a full consultation. And then only if we think they have a case and they want to hire us, and we go through all the eligibility and processing times and fees, then they decide if they want to retain us. And then I'll assign it to one of our excellent attorneys. I'll be available to, if anything comes up, or to review packets.
You're very well known in Houston, which is your home base, and you're on the news all the time. Let's show some video of Modi being interviewed on, I guess that's KPRC in Houston. What's that feel like to educate people through the media?
I think it's an amazing feeling because right now, just like you mentioned, Jeff, there's a lot of misinformation about the law. And I think people need to know what their rights really are and what they're eligible for, instead of just being afraid, And so I think that makes a big difference. I think also what makes a big difference is the public. So if they want to change, laws or vote or whatever they decide, even help their neighbors, I think all of that is just a great honor to be out there and to be an educator. I mean, I was a law professor before. I like being an educator, you know.
Yes. And you're a prolific blogger. We're going to pull up the blog page on your website. And as we scroll down that, I want you to talk about the kinds of topics that you like to take on. What are the subjects that interest you?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at these topics, there's so many just hot topics going on, and it's more now than ever. I mean, you know, immigration's in the news quite a bit these days.
Sure.
But like, look, I mean, even just last month, you know, we wrote an article about that proposed gold card visa. Like I mentioned, we work on a lot of investment visas.
Yes.
So that President Trump mentioned the gold visa. Well, the thing is, that's not a law yet, and it may be deemed illegal because Congress has the power to do that. And they've already made laws on the EB-5 program and the E-2 visa program. And so I love talking about the newest developments, but also putting people on the right track of what could they apply for. Even everything between, like I mentioned, human rights law to even investing a huge amount of money to start a business is quite a risk, and to do it the right way.
Outstanding. We're almost out of time. So final thoughts. What would you like to leave people with?
I like to leave people with, even though there's a lot of fear, some hope, right? I mean, look, there is due process in America. That's why we're one of the greatest countries. I think we are the greatest country in the world. But that's why we are, is there's a rule of law, there's due process. And on the other end of it, the other reason we're so great is we have the best and brightest, and we want to continue to have those entrepreneurs, student visas, extraordinary ability petitions, investors, right? Yes. And so to keep that, let's not let the fear overcome all these processes. And hopefully, you know, people find a good lawyer and able to have a good process here, and we keep making America great again. If that's the slogan that we have to do on the opposite way, right?
Amen. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us. We're going to end with his website, which is themodilawfirm.com. The great Modi. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. Appreciate you.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.